This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you in part by Xero. Xero is a powerful cloud accounting software that improves efficiencies across your practice. With all client data stored on a single unified ledger, you and your clients can easily access and collaborate on the same set of books. Xero's advisor tools and automation solutions reduce time-consuming manual tasks and put data entry on autopilot. Work faster and more efficiently than ever before with Xero. Visit xero.com/accounting insiders to learn more. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary DeHart. I am the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast, publisher of Insightful Accountant. And today, my guest is Nancy McClelland, CPA, the dancing accountant. Welcome, Nancy. Nancy has a firm. Nancy also runs a community. Nancy writes for MSN. Nancy writes for other people, spends a lot of time in Mexico, where she is right now. So Nancy is, I think, who everybody wants to be as a CPA instead of being in the drudgery of tax season in the doldrums of winter in Chicago. They'd rather be in the middle of Mexico, enjoying tax season from afar. So welcome, Nancy. Thank you so much for just taking some time. So Nancy is going to go. We're going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to have her share her background, just how she got to doing what she's doing now, and then we're going to talk about events. I've got a series of podcasts that I'm recording right now with the different event producers, with events in the space, and I thought, you know what? Let's get an attendee's perspective of events and an insider's perspective of events. So thank you again. Thanks for being here.
Gary, thank you so much for having me. And I'm especially excited because you happened to pick one of my very favorite topics. I love attending accounting conferences. And one of the things that I enjoy doing for my column for MSN that you mentioned is coming up on two of the biggest accounting conferences of the year. I always publish an article on hot tips and tricks for scaling
Yeah,
new heights and Intuit Connect. So I'm really glad that this topic made it into your series with Insightful Accountant.
absolutely. And they just announced those dates for Intuit Connect, right?
They did. They
This
sure did.
was it Monday? Friday last
It
week?
was,
Monday of this week?
yeah, I don't
It
know.
was very
I might
recently.
have had some intel ahead of
You
time
may
about when it was
have. All
going to
right.
be, so I don't
Yeah.
remember
I'm just
exactly.
glad it's back at Aria. I like Aria. That's my
Me too. Yeah,
favorite
yeah,
place.
it's a good one. And it's just that's actually one of the things that I take into consideration when I'm trying to decide which accounting conferences to attend.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to try out a new place, and sometimes it's just really, really handy to be able to go back to a place where you know whether or not they have coffee makers in the room, and
Right.
you know where to go to the stock up on whatever you're gonna get, whether you need wine for your room and snacks or whatever. So the Aria is kind of nice because you know what to expect because they've been holding it there for so long.
Yes. Yeah. And their restaurants are great. So
They
let's
really are.
talk about the dancing accountant and your community, and then let's talk about events. So why the dancing accountant?
Well, hi, everyone who doesn't know me yet. My name is Nancy McClelland, but as Gary is alluding to, I am better known as the dancing accountant. I've actually run my own fabulous little hyper local CPA firm in Chicago 25 years. Which is just kind of mind blowing for me.
That's hard to
Um,
believe.
I know it is because I'm not even that old, right?
Of course
Um,
not.
well, it wasn't always called the Dancing Accountant. It was Nancy McClelland LLC for many years, which is riveting, exciting, and really says a lot.
Right? Makes me want to
Um,
call you.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it was actually a client that gave me the name. I do dance. I dance in a couple of different troupes, and one of them is a 1960s style go-go dancing troupe, like
Okay.
Nancy Sinatra and the Tall White Boots. And
Oh, that's funny.
um,
That's awesome.
yeah, and we were doing an event at a pro bono client of mine, Unity Park, that is in the neighborhood. As I mentioned, our firm is hyper local in terms of our client base. And our troupe was doing a little event teaching kids how to do go-go dancing. It was so much fun.
Mm.
And here I show up in full costume, mini skirt and tall boots and all that. And not one, but two clients were picnicking with each other and their kids. And I was like, oh God, are they going to take me seriously in this getup?
That's funny.
And one of them said, "Look, kids, it's the dancing accountant." And I think I filed the DBA paperwork the next week. So we've been the dancing accountant for a good solid, I think, 11 years at this
That's
point.
great. And it's
Yeah,
stuck.
it's stuck, and it's been wonderful. We have a team of 9 who are all remote all over the country.
Okay.
But as I said, we service a hyper-local group of clients that are in our neighborhood of Logan Square in Chicago. These are the stores where we shop. These are the restaurants and the bars where we eat and drink. These are the people we call for professional services. And that's our niche, but it is a geographical niche as opposed to an industry niche.
I love that. That's got to be very impactful just from many, many ways, right? I mean, it's very neighborhood. I mean, well, you said that, but that is something that we don't see a lot, right?
Not anymore.
And
No, I think
yeah,
it's a pretty old school way of doing things. I'm guessing that back in the 50s and 60s, maybe people went to their local accountant down the
right.
street. I'm not really sure, but that's what it sort of feels like. I have been, friends and family and colleagues and neighbors will say, "Oh, you're like the mayor of Logan Square," and I say, "Don't be silly. I'm the like deputy assistant principal to the mayor."
Right.
You know? So, yes, like, we know I mean, we know our aldermen, we can call them or text them when we've got a problem, we really can be a voice for small businesses in the neighborhood. Our state representative calls on me and says, "Hey, we're making laws down in Springfield that are they're gonna really affect small business owners. Can you get a bunch of them together to give me their thoughts on it?" That kind of thing. It has a
Mm,
really big impact, and it's also just fun. When we had our 21st anniversary, it was supposed to be 20th, but COVID, so we ended up
right.
making it 21st, which was, now we're legally allowed to drink, our little firm.
Right.
And we had a huge party that was co-hosted with the Logan Square Chamber of Commerce. And not only did all of our clients come, but they brought their friends, people from the neighborhood. It was public. People from the neighborhood just showed up, and we had an amazing time. We had clients donating the food and the wine and the entertainment and everything. It's a pretty amazing experience. And as people are thinking about the various things that could be their niche, don't forget your community, because we make such a huge difference, not just in the lives of the small businesses that we care for, but we help keep them financially healthy so that they can carry out their mission. And
Right.
when they carry out their mission, it helps our communities stay vibrant and healthy.
That's awesome. And so speaking of communities, you have Ask a CPA
I
community.
do.
What is that
Ask a
all about?
CPA is, I feel like this is the thing that I was always called to do, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And um, when I finally made this dream come true this past July, I have to say it's been life-changing. It's been so wonderful. So Ask a CPA is a community for bookkeepers who would like to level up their bookkeeping by learning how to prepare tax-ready books. And by tax-ready books, I mean you can take your books for your clients and you can hand them off to a tax preparer and have them be in perfect shape. So this builds value for your client. This builds positive relationships with who might be your newest favorite referral partner.
Right.
Um, and it just makes everybody's life better because CPAs, EAs, and other tax preparers, we're struggling. We've got a pipeline crisis, and we need to be addressing that crisis. And one way to do that is to take the cleanup work that we would have to be doing on our clients' books during tax season
Hmm.
so that the books are clean enough to be able to actually prepare a tax return. Take that out of tax season, give the job to somebody else, the bookkeepers, who they want to do better. They want to help. I hear tax pros complaining about bookkeepers, but so often the bookkeepers, they're wanting guidance, but they cannot get the tax pros to respond to their calls or to spend time. Who's
Hmm.
going to pay for this kind of thing?
Right.
And so when they can learn, well, what are the things that I need to do to make the books clean and beautiful and be as clear as possible so that the tax pro can basically just enter this information onto the tax return. They've got work papers that show where the source documentation is. It creates a really beautiful collaborative relationship. So we meet at least twice a month. We have a circle community. People submit their questions. I answer them regularly, and then I take the most popular ones. And twice a month we get together. And one of the things that's really special about it is that we actually take every single question, put it into a database with a link to the answer, and it's got a hyperlink and it's searchable. So you don't
Yeah.
even have to attend the sessions. You can just look up the answers to the questions that you're most interested in. And it has been an amazing, amazing experience. So thank you very much for asking about it. You can
Yeah,
learn more
absolutely.
about it
Well,
if you go to
here we go.
thedancingaccountant.com and there's a little
Okay.
thing called Ask a CPA. Click on that and it lists it's $47 a month. It lists everything that you get for it. And yeah, we're looking for more eager people. We've got about 120 right now, and
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful, beautiful group of people.
Now, do you share some of that work with people, like with your staff, or are you the one answering all these questions?
I'm the one answering all of these questions right now. However, we do have wonderful guest appearances, which have been fantastic. So people who have a particular area of expertise have been very kind and generous with their time. For example, Megan Guinness Tarnow came and she did a whole thing that was just answering questions about nonprofits since that's her niche.
Yeah.
Um, we had Rebecca Driscoll come and answer questions about running your own bookkeeping firm and operations and pricing and that kind of thing. We had Jennifer Diamond come do a session with us on 1099s. She and I do a lot of education surrounding that topic for Keeper, and at Scaling New Heights, we'll be doing a session together. So she's the subject matter expert on that. We have panels. We had a tax pro panel. We had a panel about volunteering for the VITA program. Alicia Katz-Pollock, who is a member, also came and did a special session for us on shortcuts, tips, and tricks in QuickBooks Online to do all of the things that we've been learning about
Right.
for preparing tax-ready books. Well, how do you actually take QuickBooks Online and do those things in it? So it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, I don't have
Yeah.
anything bad to say about it because it's just truly been every single time that I get to do one of these sessions, I just pinch myself.
That's great. And is it QuickBooks focused, or are you
It is, it's
agnostic?
ask a CPA. Yeah. So I make it clear that I can only answer if they're going to ask questions about how to specifically do something.
Yeah.
QuickBooks Online is going to be all that I know, but it's a community, and so there are other
So
people who are
maybe others.
using. Yeah. So maybe others have that. Most of the questions we get tend to be not specific to how to do it in the software because there are
Okay.
groups like Bookkeeping Buds and other communities out there for that kind of thing, or Royal Wise, Alicia's training center. For us, the questions that we tend to get are, like how do I reconcile the books against the tax return? Or what do I do when I think the tax pro has made a mistake on the tax return?
Mm,
Or, what do I do? What's this list of tax adjusting journal entries? What do they mean? And how do I know, which ones should I really be booking and which ones are, maybe a tax pro trying to take shortcuts. So we get,
right.
I mean, endless amount of really wonderful questions. Again, with a database um, where they're all tagged and searchable and sorted.
Great. All right. Well, if somebody's interested, check it out, thedancingaccountant.com, and then look for Ask a CPA, right?
Yep, that's
All
exactly it.
right.
Thanks,
So
Gary.
let's get into events.
Yes.
And what we're going to look at, what we're going to get through here, we're kind of looking at why. Why do I need to go to events? How do I choose events? There's a bunch of them out there. And then you're going to help narrow down to the ones that you kind of tagged as the top events from your perspective. And then plan your time there, and maybe a couple of honorable mentions, and then we'll wrap it up. So, why should I, as a practitioner, whether I'm a tax practitioner, whether I'm a bookkeeper, whether I'm a CPA, a small business
Why? Why do
advisor,
it?
why should I spend money to go to an event? Why do I need to go to Orlando or Las Vegas or Austin?
I'll tell you, the best reason is that they're really, really fun. But I've
There you
got
go.
some other reasons besides that as well. Something interesting that I found in preparing for this chat was so I've had a blog that celebrated its 10th anniversary back in November, and so it goes back quite a ways. And I actually have an article on there that was a write-up of the 2016 Scaling New Heights. And
Okay,
I reread it, and it still holds true. I'm delighted to find that at least my core reasons for why I attend conferences are still going strong, not just having fun, but all of the rest of the stuff surrounding that. So, my list from that was focusing my practice on our strengths and priorities. Now, what this looks like to us might not be the same thing as what looks like to somebody else.
sure.
But when you look at your practice's strengths, weaknesses, and what you would like their priorities to be, you might decide niching is something that you need to learn about. Maybe staffing is something that you're struggling with. Defining your ideal client profile, pivoting to education was something that we did a few years ago, and that was something I wanted to learn more about. Leadership, public speaking. There are an endless number of things out there that you could study, and studying them all at once is a little daunting. So, we'll talk a little bit later about goal setting and why
Hmm.
you want to go through that. That's figuring out what your strengths and your priorities are, and then aligning that with conferences because every single one of the examples that I just gave, that's something that you can learn at a conference. Also, apps and solutions. This was huge for us when we first started going to conferences. And I'm not just saying we like the royal we, although,
Right.
I sometimes do that. We, my team, because, we do have various members on the team, some of whom also go to conferences, and we decide together which ones they're going to attend. Apps and solutions is a huge one there. Researching apps and other tools, looking for accounting partnerships, that is something that I feel like you can't do that any better anywhere else. Going to the conferences and talking at the same time with not only a bunch of different competing vendors, but also talking with your colleagues
Hmm.
about, and this is my next one, real life accounting firm scenarios. So, not just in sessions or in the expo hall, but in the hallways where you meet people and or you see somebody raising their hand in a session and asking a question where you go, oh yeah, you know what, I need to go find that person and talk to them,
Right.
where you go up to get a demo of a particular kind of accounting technology and you ask the other people, do you use this software, how are you using it, why are you looking into it, what alternatives have you researched? There's nowhere in the entire world that you can do that kind of thing better than at a real life accounting conference.
Right.
um, Tips and tricks is another one, like the little nuggets rather than just the giant implementations. Networking and comparing notes with colleagues, and not just for fun and not just for firm growth, but actually doing things like recording podcasts together. I think the first podcast
Hmm.
that I did with Insightful Accountant was with Christine at it was at Scaling New Heights in
I
St.
think it
Louis all
was.
those years ago.
Yes, I think it
Yeah.
was. Yep.
Meeting vendors both for collaborations or for getting demos. And then to go back to my original point about fun, exploring a new city or visiting an old favorite. Travel is fun.
Right. Yeah, and I think too, I mean, so much of the profession is smaller firms,
Hmm.
and as your firm is, remote, and
Hmm.
so, I work from home, have for 20 years, and, events is how I get out and see people. I need to do
Absolutely.
more local stuff, but it helps you build community, helps you get out of the house, so to speak, and
True.
I think really build that network where you can, hey, I've got a whatever restaurant client, and this is my first one. Who do
I
I
love
call to
that you
talk to
use
about
that
that?
as an
Right.
example because I ended up shorthanded during tax season this year because of one of my junior accountants having some personal issues. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I was able to remember, oh yeah, when I was at Appy Camp this year, which is a much smaller conference for
Hmm.
industry educators, but one of my favorites, I really got a chance to know a colleague there who specializes in restaurant accounting,
Yeah.
and I got in touch and she stepped in and rescued us during tax season. Like that would not have happened had I
Right.
not had that opportunity to bond with her at that conference. It's a
Is
great
that Kristen?
example. Yes, of course it's
Yeah.
Kristen.
Yeah. Of
She's
course.
the
Right.
one. If anybody is
Yeah.
looking for somebody to do their restaurant accounting,
Right.
Kristen Nisteraldo is absolutely the one. She's amazing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I can say that firsthand now because I
Right.
worked with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's beyond just, hey, she's a good person and I know her personally. Now it's actually she's done good work for me.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely,
all right.
absolutely.
Great.
Well,
So that's the
I
why.
asked yeah, that's the why and the how you had talked about.
Hmm.
How do you do that? And, I know how we have handled it in our firm, and I know how I handled it before I brought other people in my firm on when I was a solo practice. But I wanted to know how other people were doing it. And so I actually, not that long ago, asked on LinkedIn, how do my colleagues set their goals, their budget, and their criteria for deciding which conferences they would attend. And I got a lot of really great feedback. I asked, what are your favorites? And most importantly, why? What do you look for in an accounting conference? How do you budget for them? And how do you choose from so many amazing ones? So I've summarized those answers along with my own experiences as best I can. And I wanted to start off with thinking about the different types of conferences that are out there. Um, because not all conferences are created equal. And it's not just a question of quality at all, it is a question of um, how big or small are we talking about?
Hmm.
How much do you want it to focus on tax or bookkeeping and CAS? What about advisory? What about technology, right? Are you looking to learn something new or do you want an update on a topic that you're already an expert in, right? So there are a lot of different types of conferences out there. For me personally, I aim to attend at least one smaller scale retreat. So I mentioned Appy Camp. That was last year I did that. This year I'm doing Theater Public Speaking has an advanced cohort retreat that I'm going to be
Okay.
attending. One accounting technology conference. Again, these are at least at this point. Now that
Yeah.
I'm speaking at a lot of these conferences, I'm going to a lot more than I used to. But one accounting technology conference, and I personally think that everybody should be going to at least one accounting technology conference because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is a way to make sure that you are staying cutting edge, is learning about what are the new technologies out there. And sometimes you'll learn about the new technologies out there and you'll go, oh, pat myself on the back. I'm doing pretty good here. This is
Yeah.
great. And sometimes you're like, oh wow, I didn't, I I was I was using traditional banking. I had never thought about online banking. And then you can go somewhere and you can talk to three different online fintech companies that are, of doing banking stuff for small
Hmm.
business owners. That was a big game changer for us, for example, when we learned about that and got to compare them side by side. So I think accounting technology for us is really, really important. Another example of that is we do a lot of point of sale syncs with QuickBooks Online
Okay.
and going to the conferences. Like we only had one one company that we were working at and going to the conferences and meeting the other vendors who did the same type of work and being able to say, okay, the solution we're using right now does X, Y, and Z. How does yours compare apples to apples? And that was really helpful for us. And then I always attend at least one tax update conference per year. Obviously, I'm a CPA. We do bookkeeping, tax and advisory for our clients,
Yeah.
the full arc of services. And so, of course, I want to make sure I'm attending a tax update conference. And for me and for everybody I talk to on LinkedIn, once you've decided sort of what your core types of conferences are going to be, everything else falls in place based on people that you want to meet, maybe friends who are going to the same conferences is a good
Hmm.
example, or somebody speaking at a conference that you've always wanted to see. I once went to a tax update class. I live in Chicago, as you know, and I went to a tax update class down in Boca Raton because Tony Nitty was the presenter. And I was like, I've always wanted to see Tony Nitty speak, and we became friends. So, you never know what's going to happen there.
Right.
So, people you want to meet, your travel schedule, because sometimes you can't get away from home. And so look at what local conferences are being offered because, for example, the IRS Tax Forum, it travels all over the country. There are lots of
Right.
different places. And so there were some years where I would take my tax update in Chicago down the street.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you know Erin Pohan, but she's fantastic. She was like, there aren't any good accounting conferences in Seattle that are specific to the area in which she works. And so she just created one. So she's now
There you
got
go.
a one-page conference in Seattle for women in accounting, which is, so you can create your own local conference as an alternative.
Right.
And then your goals, we talked about how
Hmm.
your goals are going to be aligned. And then, of course, in my case and for other educators, whether or not I've been invited to or accepted to speak. So, um, to get those juices flowing, if you
Yep.
are at home and you're, taking notes or thinking about how you would pick from the various ones that are out there, here's a list of different types of conferences that I personally consider. So there's accounting technology, bookkeeping, tax compliance, advisory, team building, leadership, and then topic specific. So, for example, Bridging the Gap is specifically about mental health and sustainability and running an
Yep.
accounting firm. Reframe, the topic changes every year, but this year it's specifically on pricing. So if pricing is something that you struggle with, that would be one you would want to go to. I talked about Appy Camp being specific to education or theater of public speaking being specific to public speaking. So topic specific conferences are something that I think probably don't get enough airtime. We talk about the
Hmm.
really big conferences, but we don't talk about that. And in addition to topic specific, you've got sector specific. So I used to specialize in cooperatives. So I always would go to the National Society of Accountants for Cooperatives and the Cooperative Professionals Guild. And so if you specialize in a particular sector, look for conferences that are being offered for that sector. So it could be nonprofits, could be fraud, um, maybe you're in a specific niche like legal or medical or cannabis. It could be women focused conferences. It could be, your particular minority group, for example, Latina Tax Fest. So there are a lot of different ways that you can sort of niche on your conference selection
Right.
as well. You can also make some decisions based on a format for the conference that is most comfortable for you. So you can do live, you can do virtual, you can do hybrid. Maybe you're most jazzed by like the big inspirational keynotes. Everybody laughs at me because that is not my thing in general.
Right.
Although I was once caught crying when I heard John Garrett speak. He was freaking amazing. So every once in a while they get to me.
As long as
But
he
maybe
gets him
it's
crying, that's all that matters. He's like, I did my job. I made him cry.
totally made him cry. Um, you've got the big inspirational keynotes. You've got breakout sessions, which are one type of area that I really love because I love going deep. You've got panels, which are really great if you learn best by hearing multiple perspectives on the same
Hmm.
topic. Also there's size, big, medium, small, bridging the gap. One of the things that makes it really special, same with Reframe, is that they cap it. I think Bridging the Gap caps it at like 250 people. I think Reframe's pretty similar. Like they
Yeah.
say that's it because part of what makes it special is that it's intimate.
Right.
And so if you're an introvert or an extrovert, if you want to hide into the crowd, or you want to have one-on-one conversations, that's something to take into account. Also, how interactive and participatory they are. I've mentioned Reframe a few times and Appy Camp. Those are ones where you will be expected to participate. You're not going to be able to wallflower it. And that's one of the things that's really amazing about it. And then whether you're going solo or you're going with your team might affect your decision. So, for example, when I'm bringing my senior accountant to Scaling New Heights, she and I divide and conquer. And, we make a list of all of the vendors that she's going to visit and all of the sessions she's going to attend and the vendors that I'm going to visit and the sessions I'm
Yep.
going to attend. And then we compare notes. So sector, niche, format, type, those are all really important. And then, of course, location, right? Whether you want to
And
travel somewhere
right,
specific or avoid somewhere you don't like,
yeah,
or if
and
you
you
want to
wouldn't be
stay
an
local.
accountant if you didn't say the budget, right?
Yeah. So
I mean,
budget is incredibly important. And this is why the next thing I want to talk about, goals. That's why goals are so important.
mhm,
Because in my opinion, again, we're accountants, so budgeting is important, but analysis is important to us too, right? So I think that we forget sometimes to be intentional about what we're choosing and why. And this is something that I learned from Cindy Schrader in Bookkeeping Buds. There's an endless number of incredible events out there.
mhm,
And to get the most out of that budget, if you've already decided ahead of time, here's how much I'm willing to spend, it helps to have a list of long term, short term, and conference specific goals. And I want to be really clear when we talk about budget here. Budget is not just how many dollars am I willing to spend on the conference registration, the travel, the lodging. Most of these conferences, definitely not all, but a lot of them have meals included. And so, you can just get some snacks at you can have Instacart delivery or get some snacks at like a CVS or something like that.
mhm,
And make up the difference, while you're there. Um, but you have to think about the fact that you have a business to run. So when you're thinking about your budget, time away from your team and your clients, it can be rejuvenating, it can be insightful, but it's also non-billable. So take that into account when you are budgeting for these conferences. With goals in mind, though, it's much easier to choose which ones are worth that, right? As well as to plan your time wisely while you're there. And if you're doing that, it's going to be easier to evaluate your takeaways and fold them into the fabric of your practice
yep,
after you get back. So, what are your goals for your firm, your team members, your own career development? And your role in the accounting space. Are you marketing for new clients? Are you aiming for collaboration with colleagues? Do you need technical guidance the most? Firm practice management, inspiration? Like these are all valid, highly personal decisions. And then once you know what you're looking for overall, then start slotting in what we just talked about with the different types in terms of choosing which conference in each target area might work. Spend some time on LinkedIn, check with your favorite webinar speakers, consult with your professional organizations. For me, that's my own Ask a CPA community,
yep.
but I check in Bookkeeping Buds, Realize, Appy Camp, Theater Public Speaking, NATP, AICPA. I ask around who's attending what?
I see people making spreadsheets right now as you're
Oh
talking.
my
They're like,
gosh.
"Duh, duh, duh, 9.
You
We'll give that. I'm gonna
know.
score that as 9. I'm gonna score that as 7. This is important." So,
Are you looking at my screen that I have up behind this?
perhaps. Um, but I mean, but I think ultimately you could get to right paralysis by analysis, right? And
It's true. It's
there's a
true.
lot of great events, and you know, I don't know that I've ever been to one that even ones that aren't like the most flashy, they're
Mhm.
still good events for learning.
Yes.
And I really want to hone in on
Mhm.
the exhibitor side of it, sponsor side of it. These events don't happen without the sponsors, but that's where the new innovation is taking place. That's the tools you're going to be using. If not, right after the show, it's the one that's going to be hitting your desk or some version of it. It's going to be hitting your desk in the next, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months.
Absolutely. And
And
as I was saying earlier, there is no substitute for going to those conferences and seeing demos of the competing
yep,
products and talking with your colleagues who are actually using them in real life. That was how we discovered Keeper. We
was
heard
it?
about it
Yep.
on Bookkeeping Buds, but then my senior accountant Kendra and I went to Scaling New Heights. I think it was Scaling New Heights that year. It might have been Intuit Connect. I'm trying to remember which year that was. And we were like, okay, we're making the decision this year. What are we going to use for internal um, firm and project management? And we
Mhm.
had a list of what our goals were. And we went to each of those vendors on the floor. We got demos and we talked with colleagues and we ended up deciding on Keeper, and it's been a game changer for us.
That's great. All right, I'm gonna do the drum roll. So now we are at the part where Nancy is going to give her what was the number that you ended up with? Was it 10?
10.
Our top 10, are they in order?
They're in order of date. So the
Okay.
soonest one is
Yep.
first and the
Okay.
latest one is last.
All right. So number
If
one
I
isn't
put
the
them
one.
in order, I hope I got
Yeah.
it right.
Yeah. Number one isn't necessarily the one you're saying this is the one you absolutely have to go to. You're saying
Nope.
this is the first one on the calendar. And so we're here we are. So
As a matter
top
of fact, Gary,
10.
I'm going
Yep.
to
Well, I'll stop the
before
drum
you do
roll.
the drum roll, before you
Hold
do the
on.
drum roll, I
All
just
right.
want to roll it back a second to say I couldn't pick which one is the best. And the
Yep.
reason is everything that we've just talked about.
Yep.
You need to pick your goals. You need to decide what your priorities are. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know a style in which you are most comfortable taking in new information. You know all of these things in a way that I couldn't possibly. So do your homework first,
Yep.
then you can drum roll and I'll give you my
All right.
list.
Here we
All right,
go. And
ready?
that's my best drum roll.
All right, I couldn't hear it at all, but I'll,
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
trust you. It was
I
there,
hear.
right?
Here we go.
All
It's the best I've got. All right.
right, number one in order of the dates
Dates.
coming up for this year.
Yes.
Scaling New Heights, June 22nd through 25th in Orlando, Florida. By the way, I'm going to be writing an accompanying article for MSN on this topic where I will feature this wonderful uh, little interview that we've got going on right here, and I will
Yep.
put
Okay.
links to each of these conferences in that article. So,
Great.
Scaling New Heights, June 22nd to the 25th. This is one of my absolute favorite conferences, and it has been for years. As I mentioned, my first write up on it was for the 2016, which I think might have been the first year that I attended. I think I had been going to Sleater before that, um, and which it became Accountex and
Right.
doesn't make my list
Died.
anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. um, so Scaling New Heights is amazing, and I would put this in the accounting technology. When I think about
Yep.
the types of conferences, I would put it in accounting technology, but it is so much more than that. I know you are a huge fan of this conference as well. Would you like to take a moment to talk about what your favorite things about this conference are?
Yeah. And I have a little different perspective on it too. I've gone to, I don't know if you know my whole history, Woodard and scaling and all that, but so,
I
and
do,
even
but I
prior
don't
to
know
that.
if your audience does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the 1 minute on that. So I was the associate publisher for Accounting Today and did that for about 6 years. And while there, Seth Feinberg, who you may or may not know, he was
I know him
technology
well. He's a
editor.
good
Yeah,
friend.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he was like, hey, you know what? Joe's in Atlanta. You ought to get to know Joe. And so I went to, I think it was his third event. It was in Stone Mountain and which is like 30-minute drive. So I went to that, walked around. I was like, wow. And the biggest thing that I noticed at that event, and again, I was going to all the events, and biggest thing that I noticed was the engagement of the attendees with each other, but also on the exhibit hall floor. At that point, it was a really small floor, but the attendees were going, they were talking, and I'm again, my background is the sales and sponsorship, development, and so I'm looking at it from that perspective of, wow, great, you have an exhibit hall, but if nobody goes in it, who cares? From a
Yes. Yeah.
sponsor perspective, right? And so I've been to every show since that one, and I've recommended this show for years. And then in 2013, Joe Woodard and I, who started scaling, started Insightful Accountant, and then we parted ways in 2018. We still have a great relationship. We're doing a podcast in, I think, 2 weeks. We're scheduled to go to breakfast, I think, breakfast or lunch, like the week after that. So, and we present our
And
awards program.
yeah,
Yeah, we
Insightful
present our
Accountant
award
presents the
programs.
top
Exactly. Top Pro
100 and
Advisor.
top
Yep.
10 Pro Advisor awards
At
at
Scaling New
Scaling New
Heights.
Heights.
Yeah. And so it's yeah, I mean, for me, it's it's a top event, if not, well,
Now, this is
I would
a
say the number one
large
event for me.
conference.
Yep.
So for people who are trying to evaluate how, you know, the different things that we've talked about in terms of goals and how to
Yep.
reach those and personality type. It's a large conference. It's about 1500, 1700,
Yeah,
1800
I think
people,
so. Somewhere in there.
something like that. And one of the things that's wonderful about that is that there's something for everyone, right? You've got
Yep.
big main stage keynotes, you've got breakout sessions, you've got panels, you've got a big expo hall, you have events.
Hmm.
And so there really is something for everyone, but it can be a little overwhelming for people who don't do well with really huge crowds.
Yep.
I am going to be speaking there. I actually have two sessions this year. I'm co-presenting with Diamond on 1099 workflows, and I am teaching the Tax Ready Bookkeeper Part 2, an annual review guide for bookkeepers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you are a first timer at that event, they do a pretty good job or a very good job of helping the first timers really get tied into the event
Yes.
by kind of
I
partnering you up with a
attended
group of people,
the
right?
Yes, and I attended the first timers breakfast the first time that I went, and it was very
Yep.
helpful because they actually had a person assigned to each table, and they kind of became they were like a mentor. They're people who had been there, not necessarily
Yep.
affiliated with Woodard or affiliated with Scaling New Heights, but people like me who
Yep.
volunteer to do it. I think Kelly Gonsalves is a volunteer for that because Scaling New Heights has made such a big difference in her practice.
Yep.
And it's basically just somebody, whose hand you can hold. But I don't want people to feel like that's the only way that they can get some, I don't know if hand holding's the right, some
Yeah.
support, some love, some community. Your communities that you have joined, whether it's Ask a CPA or Bookkeeping Buds, or there are so many wonderful ones out there. Um, there will be people there that are at the conference who are also in the community, and you all get
Yep.
together and you will have a breakfast or you will have a lunch, and you will have your Slack channel that is specific to that conference saying, I'm going to this session, who's going to that session? And that kind of thing can make a world of difference at a conference, at a big conference like Scaling New Heights.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Number
All right,
two.
number 2, Tax Twitter Retreat. It is going to be in Denver, Colorado, July 18th and 19th this year. Now, Tax Twitter Retreat is called sometimes the anti-conference because in some ways it's not really a conference at all. It's very
Mm,
bootstrapped, it is volunteer run. It was a bunch of people who during the pandemic were on Twitter bonding with each other over all of the insanity that we were dealing with as
yeah.
accountants. Hashtag tax Twitter. Most of these relationships have moved off of Twitter at this point, and it's there is still a group there, but there are WhatsApp groups and Slack channels and or Slack spaces and all sorts of different ways that these people connect with each other. And the main way is every year they have a retreat that is a 2-day come as you are, hang out, get to know each other. There are some really fun panels, some really fun talks, but it is a lot less structured and a lot more. This person wants everybody to go to a ball game. And so if you're interested
Yeah.
in going to a ball game, sign up with them. And this person's going to do this and everybody. And then people come in and out of the group. And that is a huge amount of fun
Mm,
if you are involved at all in that community. It is tax centered. So a better one for tax pros rather than bookkeepers, though.
okay.
There are some people like Dina Martin and Megan Guinness Tarnow who are very involved in that community.
Great.
The
Number three.
next one is also tax related. NATP has a tax posium every year. And in my opinion, I hope AICPA doesn't bonk me over the head, but I argue that this is even better than Engage because it's very tax specific,
Hmm.
not just CPAs, but EAs, non-credentialed preparers. That's one of the things that's amazing about NATP is that they're providing quality, top
Yep.
quality education in a very how-to way with forms and steps and all of the things
Yep.
that we love to do as tax preparers, and they do it for anyone who wants to learn about it. I am going to be teaching at this one as well. It's actually my first year teaching there, although I've been an attendee for years. And I'm going
Okay.
to be talking about how to make sure that we're not losing the personal touch with our clients as we are also leveraging technology. So,
There you go. And when is
yeah,
that?
that is July 21st through 23rd in Las Vegas. I think it's at Caesars. I don't
I
remember,
think
but I'm pretty sure.
uh,
Am I wrong?
I don't know. I know some of their events have been Planet Hollywood in the past,
Mhm.
but I don't
I'll
recall if
look
I've
that
been to
one up.
Taxposium or not. But
I'm
yeah, they
thinking this one's at Caesars.
and it's typically a little bit smaller, right? The Taxposium.
It is a little bit smaller. I would call this a medium-sized
Yeah.
event. They do know how to have fun. I
Hmm.
have some pretty crazy fun pictures from us all getting dressed up, cutting up the rug on the dance floor there. We do have a good time, but they first and foremost are really about education that is very practical.
Yeah.
And I actually recommend often that bookkeepers attend, even though it is tax specific, because NATP is a membership for people who want to learn about various things having to do with taxes and not necessarily being the person who's preparing them. Um, and again, very practical approach. I think it's the best tax conference out there. I really do, hands
There you
down.
go. All right.
Next
Number
one, number
four.
4, Bridging the Gap.
Bridging.
Woo! This is my number one favorite conference, Gary. This is going to be July 22nd through the 24th in Denver, Colorado. Yes, it overlaps with Taxposium, which makes me crazy. I'm going to have to speak on the first day of Taxposium and then run over to Denver. I mean, at least Vegas and Denver aren't that far apart
Yeah.
from each other.
Yep.
But as you may have noticed, Tax Twitter Retreat is going to be in Denver July 18th and 19th. If you want to do that and then go to Bridging the Gap, it's July 22nd through 24th. So you would just have a couple days in between if you
Yeah.
decided
Go
to do
spend
it
a little
that way.
couple of days in the mountains. Not
Yeah,
bad.
I think it
Could
sounds
be
beautiful.
worse.
Now, Bridging the Gap is a very special kind of conference. I mentioned earlier that they cap the attendees. I think it's something like 250 people. It's certainly very small, and it is all about how to run a sustainable CPA firm. So
Mm.
it's not just for large firms, it's not just for small firms, it's not just for, I should say, a sustainable accounting firm. Because it's not just about tax, it's not just about audit, it's
Yeah.
anything in the accounting space where we're running our own firms or we are managers at a larger accounting firm, or we're employees at a larger accounting firm, or we're solo practitioners, and we're trying to figure out a way to do it sustainably. We're trying to figure out a way to do it where you can live in Mexico for all of tax season, for example. That is one of the ways that I sustain this energy through tax season. Um, and they don't just have you dream the dream. They don't just talk about the theory, they actually tell you how to do it. One of
Mm.
the most wonderful sessions that I attended, it was 2 years ago. It was Nio Carter Gray talking about how to take a vacation during tax season because her birthday is during tax season and she wants to get away for it. And so she took us step by step through the process that she uses in her own firm to make this happen. There was one I attended last year that was a it was a I can't remember if she was a tax pro or a bookkeeper, but she ran her own firm and she co-presented with her executive assistant. And they talked about how to hire for and delegate to an EA. And I had so
Okay.
many ideas from that one. I actually texted my own admin that day and I said, "You're becoming an EA. You're not just an admin anymore, just an admin, but like
Right.
we're leveling up your skills
Yep.
and you're going to help me delegate to you." And it has been a huge, it's just been wonderful. Also, lots of really great networking at that event. Lots of parties, lots of conversations in those, in the hallways and in those social moments between the sessions. Great combination of breakout and keynote and panel. I feel like it's got it all.
Right. There you
Next
go. All
one,
right.
number 5. Oh, I am so excited about this one this year. Women Who Count. Now, this is AFWA's annual conference um, for the Alliance of Financial Women in Accounting, and it is in Mesa, Arizona, October 21st to the 25th. And that one was one that honestly, I'm being honest, real talk here. It used to disappoint me. It wasn't what I had hoped that it would be.
Okay.
And then Sharon Fuller took over this conference, and man, she was able to really express to the other board members, here's what women in accounting really want out of a women's conference. And bless their hearts, they listened and they've transformed it. And now we've got Brittany Malador is on the committee, and Kelly Gonsalves and Melissa Miller Ferguson. And it is just a great group of women. And I cannot wait to see what they're putting together this year. So again, that's Mesa, Arizona, October
Mhm.
21st through 25th.
So if a guy shows up, does he get stoned?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, there are lots of men who attend, and I would encourage men to attend for the very important reason that they work with women. And maybe it would be very helpful for them to learn about some of the challenges that women deal with in um, our industry. So
There we
yeah,
go.
there are a lot of dudes there. They've got a good
All right.
expo hall. Um, Nobody's gonna stone you. We
All
love
right.
guys.
Number
They're so
6.
handy. Okay, number 6, Intuit Connect. This is kind of an industry standard. It used to be called QuickBooks Connect. They rebranded last year,
Yep.
um, October 27th to 29th in Las Vegas. It'll be back at the Aria. Now, they have shifted somewhat to focusing a little bit more on mid-market and larger, as opposed
Mhm.
to it used to be there used to be a lot more solo firm practitioners there. I don't want anybody to get the idea, having gone last year, I don't want anybody to get the idea that it is not something that solo practices. It's not like you're
Sure.
not gonna get something out of it. It is still
Right.
an absolutely wonderful conference. That's just not sort of the direction that they're going. And that was because of the feedback that they were getting from people who were sending members of their firms to Connect, feeling like there wasn't enough there for them. So they are, I would say, more expanding and making sure that those folks um, have what they need in order to be able to bring it back to their firms and teach the other people at their firms what they need to know about the whole. And they rebranded to Intuit Connect from QuickBooks Connect because it's not just QuickBooks. They've got a
Right.
huge, huge ecosystem of technologies that they're using. Last year, I spoke there and I presented on the topic of reasonable compensation for S corps. And I would say our audience was really evenly spread, solo, small, medium, large firm participants, because there are a lot of topics like that that affect all of us.
Right.
So
Yep.
Intuit Connect, always an amazing one. The after parties there are legendary. The parties are
Yep.
legendary. The after parties are legendary. They feed you really well. And I feel like it is priced at a value for what you get because they
Yeah.
are offering so much.
I'd agree with that. And if you're an Intuit centric firm, I mean, you can go
It's a
there
no-brainer
and
for
get
me.
all your
Yeah.
answers right there. All right. Number 7.
Number 7 is Reframe. Now, this is Hector Garcia's conference. This is in Coral Gables, Florida, November 2nd through the 5th. And this is an intentionally smaller conference. It sells out every year. So if you are interested in this, you got to make sure to get your ticket to sign up. And a pro tip is that there every once in a while will be somebody who, for whatever reason, can't go. And so you can let them know at Reframe, hey, even once they close the doors, I'd love to be on the waiting list. And maybe there'll be
Yeah.
somebody who's selling a ticket. But this is an amazing conference. And one of the reasons that is unlike any other conference in that it's expected to be interactive. And I don't just mean interactive in that Hector had me teach a dance floor full of accountants how to salsa last year, although that did happen.
Although that did happen.
That did happen. But I mean interactive. You'll have a speaker, and then the speaker will walk you through an exercise, and each table will work on that exercise together. There's a table leader. Everybody is expected to participate. You're doing some stuff that's really specific to your own firm, and then you're brainstorming. And then later, you'll have another speaker. You'll be put at a different table with a different group of people. And
Yeah.
then you will do another exercise, and it is transformative. I think transformative is the best. Last year, the topic was communication, and this year the topic is pricing. Forget what the topic was the first year because I did not get to attend, and all of my friends were like, "You missed most amazing conference." So I made sure not to miss it after that. So that's a
That's
very
awesome.
special and interesting and engaging one. And then number 8, AICPA. Now, I didn't engage for me didn't make the list. It's a wonderful conference, but it's not in my top 10. However, what is in my top 10? Oh, you know what? I just realized I went out of order because I have oh, I'll save that one for last. I'm
All right.
I'm gonna save that other one for last because the other one it's in my top 10, but date wise I just skipped it, but
Gotcha.
I'll come back to that one. Okay, so Digital CPA December 7th through 10th. It's in Washington D.C. this year. And Digital CPA to me it's an amazing conference because it is way smaller than Engage. I think it's only about 1,000 people, maybe slightly smaller than that.
Okay.
And it is I remember when I went to Digital CPA the first time, I thought I've found my people
Mm,
because I never felt like I 100% fit in at the bookkeeping and accounting technology conferences through the years because I also do tax. And I never felt like I really fit in at the tax conferences because I also do bookkeeping. And I never fit in at the advisory ones because, yes, we do advisory, but we only do advisory for the folks that we do bookkeeping and tax for.
right.
We don't just provide all of those services. We only will do taxes for people who are also bookkeeping
Right.
and advisory clients of ours. So having that sort of holistic approach and relying on technology for a lot of what we're delivering to the value that we're delivering to our clients, I felt like I was always a little bit weird at all of these conferences. Now, nobody's going to argue with me on that. I am definitely a little bit weird.
You
But
said that,
digital
not me.
I could tell you wanted to though, didn't you?
Nope, I would never say that. My wife has taught me much better than that.
All right, well, you were thinking it. So
Nope.
Digital CPA is
Yeah.
where I felt like this is where I fit in because it was CPAs who were progressive thinking
Mhm.
about technology. CPAs who um, didn't follow the status quo. They were paving their own path and doing it their way, whatever their way meant. Another thing I really like about digital CPA, not just the group of people that's attending and how comfortable I felt because I had found my people, but also their expo hall is very, very, very different than other expo halls. And actually, I'm going to rewind for a second to say at Reframe, it's a little bit like that too, because those vendors in their expo hall, which is
Yep.
actually, part of the expo hall is part of where we're having these interactive conversations.
Okay.
Those there are representatives from each of those vendors sitting at our tables doing this work with us. So we get to hear their perspective as well, and they get to hear the inside scoop on what it is we're looking for solutions. So that is also really cool. So going back to digital CPA, the way that they're handling their expo hall is it's very curated and you don't get the big huge booth. You get a very small booth that is their booth that says, here's your little
Right.
stand where you're going to be, and you don't get to bring a lot of stuff with you because we really want the focus to be on the demos and the personal relationships. We're not handing out a bunch of stuff where we want people to come up and say, "Here's a problem I am trying to solve. Can you help me?" And I
Right.
really, really liked that. It was a much smaller number of vendors as a result because it's so highly curated. But also all of our social events, not all of them, but most of them are held in that same room. So it gives you lots of opportunities for interacting with the vendors. I really
Okay.
loved Digital CPA.
Is that, you said DC, but is it DC or is it at the Gaylord?
It's DC, Washington, DC this year.
Okay, it is DC.
Oh,
Okay.
when you say at the Gaylord, you mean
Yeah, because the Gaylord's like, I mean, they call it DC, but it's really,
National
Maryland. Or it's, yeah,
something?
National
Yeah,
Harbor. Is that
National
where it
Harbor.
is?
I actually
I
don't know
think
the
it's
answer
been
to
there
that.
before. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
listed as Washington, DC on their website when you go and
Okay.
it says where it is, but it might just be like DC area. Yeah,
Right.
I would
Okay.
look that up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That was
All
number
right.
8, right?
That was
Number
number 8. Number
9.
9. Okay. So this one is very special and interesting to me because it is a hybrid. It's a hybrid conference. It's CPA Practice Advisors Ensuring Success. Now, this
Mhm.
is December 10th through the 11th. So it does overlap one day with digital CPA, but they do have presenters who are at both. And that is in Dallas, Texas. However, this is what they've done that's so neat. Gail Perry is the one who this is her brainchild. They have all of the presenters in Dallas, Texas, basically locked in a studio together for a
Yeah.
couple of days. And every single session is a panel. And so you have Alexandra and Gail doing the moderation. Then you have somebody who is a subject matter expert. Then you have a sponsor that sponsors some sort of technology or product that is in the space of the topic that they're discussing.
Okay.
And then you have somebody who's actually using this stuff in real life at their firm. And I just think that is genius. And they have a panel discussion about these various topics, and then it moves on to the next panel, onto the next panel. But the audience is all virtual. We're all very comfortably watching from wherever we want to be December 10th and 11th, possibly wrapping Christmas and Hanukkah presents while we're
Exactly.
watching.
Right.
Maybe even with an adult beverage in our hand. I'm not
Possibly.
saying, but
Not
it's possible.
saying, I'm not judging.
Good.
Yep.
So, I really love ensuring success. I think that that format is very interesting, accessible. It's
Yep.
nobody else is doing it. It's very easy on December 10th and 11th to be able to take a couple of days for continuing education. And I love the fact though that it's not something you could have recorded ahead of time. I feel sometimes with virtual conferences, the person could have recorded what they were
Oh yeah.
doing and sometimes they do, and then they
Right.
put it up and they call it a conference. And that to me sometimes feels like a series of webinars. This is not like that. The presenters are all there together and we're watching them. I really love that.
Yep.
All right, number 10. This one is actually my favorite virtual conference. And date-wise, I got this in the wrong order. November 11th and 12th. This is Financial Senses Workflow Con. Their virtual conference to me is just out of this world. I was honored to be selected as a speaker last year. I talked about breaking down the wall between tax pros and bookkeepers, which is, of course, what we're all about at Ask a CPA. And
Hmm.
I think they do an amazing job with this virtual conference because you actually feel like you're with the other people. And last year, they actually asked me to help them teach everybody how to dance the time warp in a main stage break, which was teaching a bunch of, 700, I think, people to do the time warp virtually while wearing all sequins. Jumpsuit. That was an experience. So that's not why it's my favorite virtual
Right.
conference. I just think they do a really, really good job with it. And if you only have time for one this year, that would be my main pick. Also, you can pick and choose which sessions you go to, and that makes every virtual conference a little bit easier to attend.
Right. For sure. All right. I
Um,
know we're bringing
yeah.
the plane in for a landing here. I know you had some honorable mentions you were going to throw out there, and then we
Yes.
will wrap it up.
I can't do a session for Insightful Accountant without bringing up how much I love Future Forward. I was so thrilled to be able to present, not last year, but the year before at Future Forward on the confluence of tax and accounting and bookkeeping,
Yep.
and it was a wonderful experience. And one of the reasons that I love getting to speak at conferences like that is that these are conferences that I attend because I still run
Right.
my own firm. I don't only do education and only attend conferences, although seems like it sometimes.
Yes.
I promise I really do work, and I love Future Forward, and I am very curious and interested to hear a little bit more from you. I know you said that y'all are switching
Yep.
from the old format. Now you're doing 1 week a month, one session a day. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Correct. Yeah. So we're gonna past few years it's been like 2 days back to back, 4 sessions. Sometimes we did 5 sessions. So it was I'm sitting in front of my computer for
Mhm. It's a
from 10
lot.
in the morning until 6 at night or whatever. So we're we're going to test this year, we're technically starting it in May, but it's kind of more around our paid premium model that we're doing in May. And so really in June, or is it June? Maybe even July. I should know these things, but so it'll be basically one session a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we'll do 4 sessions in a week.
Mhm.
And then, like the week after that, I don't think I shared this part with you in the green room, but the week after that, there'll be um, and what we call App Academy, which is, the sponsors will have their opportunity to present their product basically
Oh, I
on the
love
App
it.
Academy. And then,
Yeah.
and each month has a theme. I don't know the themes off the top of my head, but we'll have that posted pretty soon. And so we'll see how you know, it seems from our perspective, it gives you a little more flexibility in your day,
Mhm.
right? And I can carve an hour, hour and a half out of my day. Kind of
Right.
hard to carve 2 days back to back.
It is.
And
It is.
so,
I'll agree.
so we'll see. You have to try things to kind of test the
Yeah.
waters,
Well, I'm
right, to see what
excited.
works.
I can't
Um,
wait.
and this also gives us the ability to do more in depth on more topics.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
so,
I love the idea of
so it should be
having
good.
the App Academy be the following week. I think that that's a really great way, when you can take the education and I've said one of the things I love about Insightful Accountant, I've said so many times, is that you're getting not just the sales pitch from
Right,
the vendors, you're actually getting the education about like what are best what's the best use case and the best practices for using this kind of technology or that kind of technology, and how would I implement this in my firm, and getting to ask the real questions of
right.
the vendors. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, thanks for the
I
shout
want to
out. I appreciate
yeah.
that.
Oh,
I brought it up.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
It is from the heart. I wanted to mention an honorable mention as far as budgeting is concerned,
Okay.
because the IRS tax forums. This is
Yep.
where I went
Those
for
are a
years and years
steal,
and years. They
right?
are a steal. There is nothing out there
Yep.
that is less expensive and for the value that you're getting. It is
Yes.
absolutely amazing. Now they do them all over the country. So this year
Yep.
it's going to be July 1st through the 3rd is in Chicago. August 5th through the 7th is in New Orleans. August 26th through the 28th is in Orlando. September 9th through the 11th is in Baltimore. And September 16th to the 18th is in San Diego. If you are on a budget, and this is whether you're a bookkeeper or a tax pro, because there's a lot. There is so much there that is, and they have so many concurrent sessions that you will be able to find something, even if you're not a tax professional, you will be able to find something that will be of value. And if one of these is in your town or you're nearby or you're going to be visiting there anyway, attend, please, because
Yep.
it was years and years and years that I attended these before I got to the point where I really needed it to be NATP and AICPA because of the more advanced material that they're teaching. Uh, IRS tax forums are amazing, and I really wanted to make sure I gave them a shout out. And as well, since we're talking about budgeting, I would be remiss if I did not share with people the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. I'm not sure how familiar
I'm
you
not.
are with them. They're an amazing nonprofit. They are my favorite nonprofit in the accounting space. And it was a brainchild that came up at the first Appy Camp with Kate Johnson from Bookkeeping Side Hustle and Don Brolin, who I believe is the current president. I know Randy Crabtree is on the board. Look at their board. It's an amazing, incredible group of people. But it is a nonprofit that pays for people who have never attended an accounting conference to attend their first accounting conference, pays
Okay.
not just for the registration fee, but it pays for their hotel and their flight and everything. And it is such um, an, I think, homage to and recognition of the fact that these people saw what a difference accounting conferences made in their own lives. And they
Hmm.
wanted to pay that forward. They wanted to give that opportunity to other people. And so if you are somebody like me who loves accounting conferences, please donate to the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. If you have never been to an accounting conference and you would like to go, apply for a scholarship for the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. I believe they are sending 16 people this year, 4 each to 4 different conferences.
That's fantastic.
It is absolutely amazing. You can find out more about them at accountingcornerstone.org. So check them out.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, we are going to wrap it up. I hear the dinner bell ringing here down in the kitchen, so I am going to head out to grab a little bit of dinner here with my wife. Nancy, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I look forward to seeing the article. And so your first one where you're going is Scaling New Heights. Is that
Scaling
correct?
New Heights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll certainly see you there. We've got something we haven't announced it yet, and I can't talk about it right now, but there's something brewing there. That'll be a
Oh, wait a
nice little
minute.
event. It'll be a good event for that's all I'll say.
You
It'll
just
be a nice little event.
vaguely
Yes,
dropping that and
yes,
making
yes,
me wish
yes.
I knew
So
more.
mark your calendar for that Monday night.
All right.
So,
I will do
all
that.
right. Well, thank you so
Gary, it is
much.
always such a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks so much for having me here
Absolutely.
to talk about my favorite topic. One of my
Well,
favorite
and
topics. I've got a lot of favorite topics.
right. Well, great. Oh, one question I didn't ask you.
Yeah,
Did you
what's that?
take did you drive the taxi to Mexico?
Gary is referring to the fact that my car is an old 1982 checker cab. And no, we did not
Did
drive
not
it with us to Mexico.
probably
But
fit in pretty
man,
well, right?
we've been tempted. We've been tempted. The drive to get here, oh my God, the number of places we could break down and not be able to fix it have
Right.
made
Yeah.
it so that we've decided not to
Yeah.
do it. But we are tempted, and I'm thinking one of these days there's going to be a pretty amazing road trip in our
Yeah.
future. It's at home in Chicago, garaged and safe from the Chicago winters.
Here we go. All right.
We'll hope it
As are
starts up
you.
when I get back.
Right. Right. So, all
As
right,
am I.
Nancy,
Yes.
great talking to you. We will
Take care,
talk to
Gary.
you
Thanks
and
so
we'll
much.
see
Have
you
a good
soon.
day, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.